I honestly thought he was going to die because he literally, I'm not kidding you guys when I say he diarrheaed 23 times in one night.
It was probably more.
We literally left the back door unlocked.
But it wasn't even just diarrhea. It was bloody diarrhea.
It was straight up just liquid. Bloody, mucusy liquid.
ROTN, let me present to you the ROTN Podcast. The ROTN Podcast.
How do you want me to say it? Rotten. Hello, guys. What is freaking up, you guys? Welcome back to the ROTN Podcast, episode 13, baby.
Welcome back. It's a unlucky or lucky number, depending on how you view it.
Do you know why 13 is a bad number or why people are afraid of that number? Like, what made this a thing?
I have no idea.
You know, like, I understand 6 because that's like the devil's number, and then 3 is like God's number. But how did 13 become a number that people were scared of?
You're asking the wrong person. I have absolutely zero clue.
That's so funny. Yeah. I know this is so random, but I am curious. What is your favorite number?
24.
That's what I thought. Okay. I knew it was like a basketball
It's 2
number.
and then it's 24. Well, that's my birthday,
yeah.
2/4, February 4th.
It's your
2/4.
birthday in 2 days. By the time you guys watch this, Matt has officially turned 31.
Ugh, disgusting.
No, don't make me afraid to be 31 now.
Well, you're going to be turning 30.
I
That's
know.
a way bigger birthday. This is the first year for me where it's the start of birthdays that are completely meaningless. It feels like no one cares that I'm turning 31. You know, I certainly am like, okay, this is a start to a whole lifetime of birthdays not really mattering until you get to the
40.
next birthday for me will be 40, and then 50 is the big one. And then after that, I don't think there's any reason to celebrate a big birthday.
Oh, that makes me so sad. Wait, there is no milestones for you for another 10 years.
Yeah,
9 years.
9 years.
I mean, I'm turning 30 this year, and it's making me feel really old. But at the same time, I don't want to turn 30. But now that I'm like 29 and like 3/4 of the way there, I'm like, I'm actually ready to turn 30. I want to see what my 30s are going to be like, because I think I've grown so much, even in this last year, let alone last 5 years. I feel like I've grown so much. And we kind of talked about this in last week's episode, where we talked about how much growth has come around from people turning 25 to 30, right? Because we met when you were 26, now you're turning 31, and I was 25, now turning 30. We've grown so much.
But so how do you feel about it? I was actually going to ask you, how do you feel about ending your 20s? You just have about a little over, 2 months about left of your 20s.
I honestly wish I had like a profound thing to tell you. I'm
not looking for anything profound, just more specifically, how do you feel about your 20s coming to an end? You just said you were excited about it, which is surprising to hear. Most people, when they're turning 30, I remember for me, I'm going to interject really quick.
Go for it.
When I was turning 30, I didn't think anything of it. And then when I actually turned 30, kind of a weird, depressing moment.
Really?
Not like a huge depressing moment, but it felt sad to me. My 20s are officially over. And I think as a kid growing up, you're kind of always looking to be 18 and then 21. And you have this fantasy of what your 20s are going to look like. And when you enter your 20s, at least for me, I set very ambitious goals for myself of where I would be in my 20s. And I just look back at it, and it's just sad because I wish that I did so much more. However, I'm very grateful and happy for where I am. But I did wish that I was in a way further along spot with music, with my life in general. But it's okay. Things take longer, and that's what you kind of realize along the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think anyone feels like they're anywhere near where they're supposed to be. I think everyone in general has this idea of what their lives will look like at 20, 25, 30, 35, whatever it be. And I think everyone's journey is so different. But for me, I was really scared to turn 30 because as a content creator and as a YouTuber, it almost feels like these 21-year-olds who are becoming famous TikTokers are my competition. And I don't see them as competition because that's not how I view things in my life. But it almost feels like there's this like these new trends that are happening with the younger generation that I have to like make sure I stay involved in, because for me in my work, trends is something that's really important. So now that I have to compete with finding trends before like other 21-year-olds find them, it's really weird. And actually this makes me realize why I've become more comfortable with getting older in my career, because I used to have to compete with those like trending YouTube videos that made me feel really young. Like 10 lies every girl tells, right? And you just feel like so fraudulent doing those types of videos, or like making those videos like 24 hours staying awake, right? Like those types of videos that were very trendy, and those are just not the type of videos I love to make anymore. And so as I've gotten comfortable over the last 2 years making videos that feed my soul, real estate videos, finance videos, things like that, I feel like I don't have to compete with the younger generation anymore. I don't know where I was getting at other than saying that. Did you learn anything when you turned 30, or do you feel like it was just another
Absolutely
year
not.
for
It was
you?
definitely another year. But no, that's interesting you said that, because I do think it really does depend on what you want to do in life. And obviously when you are building in public, or you're an influencer, a content creator, artist, musician, there is something to be said about a time limit, or at least that has been the biggest thing for me that I've been dealing with, fighting the feeling of time. Being an artist and a musician is a young man's game. Obviously people have success with music later on in life, but typically, like what you're saying, the newer generation, younger kids coming out, you're kind of like not competing with them, but you're comparing yourself to them.
Yeah.
And music does, especially to make it in rap and hip hop. I mean, now I'm seeing more and more artists that are older, and there's less of a constraint on age, but that is something that I've thought a lot about, and it does stress me out, that I constantly have to take conscious time to reflect and be grateful and present of my age and not let it affect me.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you talk about this quite often, so I totally understand that stance. But I also believe in you so much, and I think you're so talented, that there are other outlets and ways for a musician to make it, other than being like a performer that tours 24/7, right?
Well, I want to tour, and I want to be a successful artist.
Oh, so you do want to tour?
Yeah.
Oh, I will be at home with the kids, not doing that with you.
Well, that's the best way to make money. You can build a career in music in other ways, 100%. And now with the internet, in the way that social media is, you can definitely make good money off of your music without needing to tour. With touring, it is one of those things where it's taking advantage of the attention that you have, because that's the most amount of money you're really going to make is from live shows. It's selling merch, doing that. So it's almost like you have to capitalize all of your energy. I've spent so much time, and once I start to really blow up, you want to capitalize on that to capitalize your investment and your time. So
I don't want to change the subject. I definitely want to get back on this subject. But for a second, when you said merch, guys, we are coming out with ROTN merch. So if you guys are a fan of the podcast, we're coming out with merch, baby.
It's coming soon.
It's coming soon. So get excited for that. And it's
Theo.
also, just wanted to shout that out really fast, because I've personally never come out with merch before, and I'm very, very excited for it.
Surprised you haven't.
I mean, because I had my clothing brand Live in Jest, that I like, it didn't make sense for me to have merch on top of my clothing brand Live in Jest. But with like artists touring, I just can't imagine how fun that lifestyle is after like the first time you do it.
You're saying it doesn't seem fun after you do it?
It seems like the first time you do it's really fun, and I would love to join you for the first like tour you do. But then I feel like after a while, when you're like going to like Oklahoma City, you're like, ooh, what am I doing? No hate to Oklahoma City, but like, do I want
just random places you had no desire to travel to? Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's not something I want to play my music and do live shows, so of course that's really exciting, but I am such a homebody.
Yeah.
I love Theo, I love Zoe, Shark, the house, you. I love being here.
You love me?
Yeah, sometimes. I love being home, that every time I travel, I just can't wait to get back home. And that's what I really realized over the past year, and even this year. My favorite place is to be home. So when I travel, I just can't wait to get back. So then I started thinking, why do I even want to travel?
We're going to Hawaii in like 2 weeks.
I know, and I'm excited to come back.
Seriously?
No, I'm excited to go to Hawaii because I haven't been, but I'm,
it's gonna be so fun. But I also feel the same exact way, where like I'm excited to leave, and then the second I'm there and like 2 days in, I'm like, I'm so excited to just have a routine.
Yeah.
And if there is someone I know that has and loves a routine, it's you. You and your brother love your routines, and I think it's very cute.
Yeah, I think structure is important. And I think everything comes down to just being grateful and present. And so you will be able to find gratitude and presence in doing those things, whether you don't maybe love traveling and being on the road, but to be able to be appreciative of your journey and play your music for people who appreciate it, that is a beautiful experience in its own. Yeah. So you have to sort of soak that in and be grateful for that. So it's hard.
100%.
Yeah. But I will say, I think having a routine is so important. I find so much fulfillment in having a routine. That is the way that I feel happy and fulfilled as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And even with vacation, I'm just in a place in my life where, of course, I'm really excited to go to Hawaii. But in general, I'm not in a place where I want a vacation. I'm not ready to take a break from work because I don't feel I've earned it.
I see that.
You know, I'm like
Yeah.
grinding so much. And especially this year, I've put such a new focus and intention. And I'm so particular with my time and making sure things get done that it stresses me out thinking about being away from that.
I 100% see that, because when we were launching our NFT project, I would never have wanted to take a vacation because I would have been too stressed out with what everything else was going in our lives. But I do want to say you are more than welcome to work during Hawaii, 'cause I will probably be working as well.
Yeah.
So
Well,
take the laptop. If we want to do the podcast, we can take the mics there. Like
that would be funny if we set up a Hawaii podcast.
Oh, you know what? We're actually staying at the oldest resort in Hawaii called the Moana Surf Rider. It is the royal. So I don't know if you know anything about Hawaii or the history of Hawaii. There used to be royalty in Hawaii. Like there's a king and a queen. And so like the king and queen built this resort, and it was like their first resort, and they've now turned it into like a hotel chain. Not a hotel chain, but like a hotel where people can stay at. So that's where we're staying at. I don't know how beautiful the rooms are because it's supposed to be like a very historic hotel. And I was going to book us a very modern resort, but then I was like, that doesn't feel very Hawaiian. And we're going to Honolulu, which is very much like a city vibe. We should have went to Maui for your first time, I just realized. But Honolulu is still very, very fun. And then Waikiki Beach is like beautiful. It's going to be fun and beautiful no matter what.
Yeah, I'm sure anywhere we go, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I just love nature. I will choose nature over people.
We're going to hike and everything. There's like...
You're going to hike?
Yeah, I will hike your birthday weekend or trip. But also like, it's beautiful. I don't care to hike in Culver City, which is where you want me to hike.
No.
The Culver City steps?
I never asked you to do the steps or the stairs. I ask you to come on legitimate hikes where we get beautiful views of mountains and water.
Me to do the Culver City steps.
Yeah,
but definitely come with you to do the Culver City
steps. Once or twice. Twice in 4.5 years.
I mean, you haven't asked me that often.
You kind of stop asking when you know that what the answer is going to be.
Yeah, that's why I've stopped asking you to events with me.
Not true.
Yes.
Still do.
Either way, very excited for your 31st birthday because we get to go to Hawaii. Yes, turning 30 this year. And I'm also drinking so much tea. I'm drinking tea right now. And I know Matt and I don't really talk about our personal lives too often. I have tea all over my pants. No.
You spilled tea all over yourself. That's the tea.
Oh my God. Yes. Okay, so either way, I spilled a little bit of tea. I'm currently drinking ginger and lemon tea. It's so yummy. It has probiotics in it. But Matt and I have started this new routine where we end every single night with tea and dessert. And it's been so fun. And
we haven't really done the dessert part.
I mean, I have.
In a few days. You have.
I have. You have not enjoyed any of the desserts I wanted to give you. Except tonight we didn't have any dessert because I knew we were going to film this podcast. So we're just doing tea.
It's a great way to...
It's a routine.
Nice routine. Yeah. See? Look
at
that.
That's why I was bringing it back.
You've found fulfillment in routine. Imagine if you structured your life more with routine. You would be shocked how much you would enjoy it.
I just enjoy tea.
I just enjoy tea.
You know, it's a healthy alternative to boba because I am addicted to boba and I no longer allow myself to DoorDash boba unless I physically drive there. So I think I've
really?
only
Is that
gotten...
the new rule?
Yes. I've only gotten boba twice DoorDashed in 2023. Granted, it's only February 1st right now.
That's pretty good for a whole month. Yeah.
One time I broke my rule, and the second time I gave myself a incentive. I told myself if I cleaned my entire closet, like deep cleaned it, like washed out the drawers, vacuumed it in 1 hour, I could get myself boba. And I did it.
There you go.
58 minutes.
That's a page out of the Atomic Habits playbook, which, by the way, I finished the book today.
How is it?
It's amazing. The last chapter was just, everyone should read it.
Can I start reading it?
Yeah. Well, you should.
Well, the reason I didn't was because it was on Kindle and I didn't want to fuck up your audio spot. Yeah.
Thank you for that. But I will say that one of the things that they talk about in that book, one of the last chapters, they talk about amateurs versus professionals, and they trying to quantify what do successful people have compared to ordinary people that make them so successful with how they build their habits. And it's interesting because one of the things they talk about in the book is the difference between professionals and amateurs. Professionals have that feeling where they don't feel motivated, they feel lazy, but they still get themselves to do the work or do whatever they have to do, even if they have to drag themselves to do it. Amateurs will, they're not feeling motivated, they're feeling tired, so they'll make excuses and they'll be like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. A professional will still feel that feeling, which for me, I guess there's comfort in knowing that even the best people in the world don't want to do it. That's what it was showing, is that people don't have this instinct. These professionals don't have more of a motivation to do it. They just work through those shitty days. And it's so fascinating to hear that, because I find comfort in knowing that really there's so much, you can have so much success by showing up. But one of the reasons I brought this up, sorry, I kind of went on a random tangent there, is that a lot of times, and I found this with dieting and eating healthy, it's okay to mess up or break your habit. For example, you ordered boba,
Yeah.
But the best thing that you can do is don't do it the next day. So there's so much power in, it's okay to break your habit, but to have a reoccurring bad habit because you're like, well, I ordered it yesterday, I'm just going to get it again. That's just a snowball effect. And so it just goes into how much it's important to show up every single day and at least try to get a tiny bit better. If I gave you some change, and I asked you, would that make you wealthy? You'd say, no, it's just some change. But if I kept giving you change, kept giving you change, you would eventually start to acquire some wealth. It's the same thing with habits. If you were to ask yourself, is this one small little habit going to change my life? No, but a lot of little habits stacked on top of each other every single day, getting 1% better, will have an incredible implication on your life, and it will change your life, and you will be able to say, my life was changed by small habits.
Oh, I love that. And I want to draw a parallel to the fact that there is a difference between amateurs and professionals, right? Professionals, they have to work through those moments of feeling insecure or unmotivated because someone else is relying on them to show up. Versus as an amateur, it makes sense that you allow these like feelings of no motivation to kind of dictate how you guide yourself throughout the day, because no one's relying on you to do it. Like if your job
that's not necessarily what it was saying. Take Russ for an example, right? He became a professional through acting like a professional. And he doesn't necessarily, no one's relying on him. He does everything in-house, but he's still a professional because he shows up regardless. And it means so much to him to show up, finish a song, get through it, keep moving.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the inverse. It's not you become a professional.
Yeah,
it's not that. You become a professional. Now you have people that you have to show up for. It's actually the opposite. You have people that you need to show up for because you're a professional and you built yourself there.
Yeah. And you become a professional because this is the mindset you have.
Yes. Okay. And that's something that's
been I'm straight up an amateur because I allow a lot of my ambitions and motivations to dictate how I work throughout the day, because my work really is showing up in front of a camera, and it feels really, really fake for me to show up when I'm not feeling well. It almost feels like disingenuous when I'm trying to be a genuine person, like on my YouTube video. So but yes, I get that.
Yeah, you're human, and that's okay. It's hard to show up and work. So to say that you're just going to show up and do things like a robot is not realistic. However, being a professional, and you are a professional and you show up when you need to, you pull crazy all-nighters, stay up till 5 a.m. editing. It's not an option for you not to do those things. That's how you've become to where you're at, is by having those habits. You know what I'm saying? But you wouldn't have got to this place by acting like an amateur. And I've had to really sit myself down and really marinate on this thought. If I want to be a professional artist, act like a professional artist. Don't wait until a certain moment and then tell yourself that you're going to act like a professional once it becomes quote unquote professional.
I almost feel like people use not acting like a professional as a crutch as to why they are not professionals. Do you know what I mean? They're like, well, I'm not like that big yet, so I don't need to like work that hard at it.
Yeah, exactly. And the only way you get big is by acting that you're big. Yes. By having the tendencies and habits of someone big is how you get big. It's not the other way around.
And let me just say, you can still make it without having this mentality, because a lot of people can't work through it like a professional can, where they can work while unmotivated. So we're not saying if you don't have these qualities in yourself, you're never going to be successful. And I actually have the perfect story to tell you. So there is this YouTuber who is afraid of flights. And this YouTuber got a $500,000 makeup brand deal. And the only requirement for her was to do a meetup. They knew she was afraid of flights. So they said, what can we do to make this flight as peaceful, as comfortable for you as possible? And she requested a private jet. So they go, totally fine. We'll book the private jet for you. This is the day and the time of your meetup. We have invited 1,000 of your fans. They have bought tickets to go to this meetup. The day the private jet is supposed to fly into Las Vegas, guess what? She calls up her manager and goes, hey, I don't want to go anymore. I don't want to do this. And they canceled the entire event. So not only did she lose out on $500,000, but this brand had to tell 1,000 fans who showed up, drove there, flew into town, booked hotels or whatever to meet her, because this girl doesn't do a lot of meetups, just lost all their money. And I'm just saying that to say that
I was wondering how it ties into what we're saying.
Even professionals who people see are professionals are not that professional.
Yes.
And it's hard to feel motivated.
And she's human. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I would imagine that she has strong habits to become at the place where she's at to even have a deal like that on the table.
I mean, no, there are a lot of people that are famous and wealthy, and they don't have that mindset of feeling motivated or showing up, because
well, then how would they ever get anything? Who do you think had success but like doesn't work for it?
I mean, I think there are plenty of people that are successful but don't have that mindset of being able to work when they're not motivated. And I know a lot of YouTubers who like don't put in their sponsorships on time. Sometimes I turn it in a day late because I don't feel motivated enough to like finish it on time.
Yeah, I think that social media is an interesting exception because you can put out a video and build an audience and people love you, and you maybe don't have to have a structured professional lifestyle. But I'm saying in general, most of the people that are successful in YouTube, on the internet, treat it professionally.
Yeah.
They're consistent. They follow through.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're not always doing that, but to get to where a place of success have had to show up. I'm sure when they didn't want to. That's just like anything in life.
I mean, I only brought this up because we were talking about tea. I think we changed the subject because I was talking about my tea. I did want to say I'm glad we started this routine with one another, because it really has allowed us to spend more quality time together. Because I think that is something we had struggled with a little bit, was that we weren't spending good quality time together. We would either just like end the night by watching TV, scrolling through our phones. But now that we have we end every night with tea and dessert, we definitely still scroll on our phones, but it almost feels like we're doing something together.
Yeah, I love it.
I think I like it a little more than you do.
Not true.
I would say you scroll on your phone more than I do when it's during tea time. I'm actually like drinking the tea.
You're
You'll
like
be
sitting
laying
there.
down.
Sorry, I'm staring at a screen on my phone. You're staring at the screen in front of your face, the TV. They're both screens. But yeah, I get it. So overall, the last chapter of Atomic Habits is very, very powerful, and I would definitely recommend people check it out if they're interested. Or my goal is to read a book every month, and first one knocked it out.
It's funny that you say you're reading.
I know.
Listening.
I'm listening. I
That
feel like
is
such a phony. Well, the next book that I'm reading,
Okay.
I actually ordered on Amazon.
So it's a physical book.
It's a physical book.
Hell yeah.
I need to feel that physicality. I don't know the actual name of it, but it's Rick Rubin's new book that he just dropped. And
I don't know who Rick Rubin is.
That's crazy. He is one of the most prolific music producers of our time.
Well, yeah.
100%.
How do you expect me to know who Rick Rubin is?
But the thing about what makes Rick Rubin so special is he's this man who is like a monk. He's so insightful and meditative and calm. And he's so interesting because there hasn't really been a music producer ever that has had the amount of success he's had in such wide varieties of music. A lot of people probably don't know his name. A lot of people actually do know his name. But what makes him so prolific and interesting is, again, Adele, Slayer, Metallica, Kanye West, Jay-Z,
Jeez.
Beastie Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers. It goes so wide. In some of the best songs of our time in our generation, he has had a hand in making. So everyone's like trying to get this information from him. How do you pull? And what's so fascinating in his role is really pulling the best out of these people, which is such a crazy thing, because in order to sit there and dig deep with someone and really bring everything out of them, that takes a very, very specific person. They must know something that most people don't know.
In other news, we have had a lot of issues with Theo. He is the sweetest boy, but has had the most freaking problems. And if you guys don't know this, Matt and I have a boxer named Theo. He is 5.5 months old now, and was supposed to go to boarding, but now we had to cancel boarding for him because he has been shitting a storm lately.
He's been a little sick boy, yeah.
I honestly thought he was going to die because he literally, I'm not kidding you guys when I say he diarrheaed 23 times in one night.
It was probably more.
We literally left the back door unlocked.
But it wasn't even just diarrhea. It was bloody diarrhea.
It was straight up blood, mucusy. Sorry if you're eating, just liquid, bloody, mucusy liquid.
I mean, this is something I've been dealing with a lot with the vets, bringing him in. I mean, it's been challenging. When we got him, had diarrhea a little bit, didn't think anything of it. I mean, it's pretty normal for puppies to have a lot of diarrhea. But then when I finally brought him to the vet.
I don't think it is, because Zoe didn't have a lot of diarrhea. It was very rare for her to have diarrhea. So I remember when.
But I feel like your study group is just Zoe, but when I talk to other people about puppies and dogs, you know, people are like, oh, don't, like, yeah.
Not they have diarrhea here and there, but like Theo, the first day we got him, had diarrhea for like 2 weeks. And then would have moments of maybe 1 week where he'd have solid poops and then go back to diarrhea. And this is something we've been dealing with for 2.5 months now, if not 3, it feels like.
Yeah, he's very sensitive. And I've been trying to get to the root of the problem. And I'm really happy that I just switched over to a new vet.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Modern Animals. Amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Lauren. I'm glad that I called her. So Theo was just, when we brought him to the park and watched him run around for the first time, which was honestly one of the most beautiful moments for me. I was so excited to bring him and Zoe and you to the park and hang out and just run around. And it was so much fun. I feel like I've been waiting so much to get him to a place where he can go out and run around other dogs. And so I was so excited to just let him run. Right when we got there, he kind of had a little diarrhea, and I'm like, oh no. And then when we got home, I fed him dinner. Everything was fine. Put him in his crate, and then he kept crying every 35 minutes to go out. He needed to go to the bathroom, and it got to a point where I couldn't even sleep, so you took over.
Yeah.
And then it kept happening where sadly we just left his crate open and left the back door open, and he would literally just take himself out, go back in, take himself out, go back in, and he's so well potty trained.
Yes. This is
now,
the moment
which has been
this is the moment that made me realize he is so well potty trained. I mean, I was so proud of him. I felt like, oh wow, like he's grown up. He's grown up.
It was so sad. And then Saturday when I woke up, he was still having bloody diarrhea.
I
and it
always
was
actually had
worse.
an issue with that vet that we were initially taking him to, because it felt like she wasn't doing enough.
I mean, it's tough to say.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, but now
I wanted to get him. It was tough because when we were taking him there, I kind of had to finish the cycle of getting his vaccines and going through the process. And you don't know what's going on with them. So it does take a lot of elimination to figure out what's going on, especially with something like diarrhea. It can be so many factors. But I'm glad that we're getting another opinion and doing Modern Animal, which is such a better system.
Yeah, I wish he could still go to boarding school though, because I definitely think he needs it. But now it's just Zoe, and now we have to find a babysitter for him for Hawaii, but that's okay. He's such an easy boy to handle, that especially
alone. He's so easy.
I'm actually kind of excited to have him by himself for a couple of days, or a couple of weeks actually.
Both of them are very easy alone.
Yes.
But the combination of them together, they have different tendencies, patterns, and then they're just kind of like fighting, and Theo annoys Zoe, and Zoe wants nothing to do with him.
Sometimes she does, but for the most part, she likes to be chill and play with her toys by herself, and he will always gravitate towards whatever toys she has, and we'll give them the exact same toys because we're good parents, and he will still try to steal the one Zoe has, even though he has the exact same one in front of his face. And so Zoe gets very territorial of her toys. She loves her toys. She's a silly girl, but I'm excited for training for her for boarding. We have all of our friends doing boarding like together. I think
I kind of got him on the train.
If you guys don't know, Diggy is currently going through boarding right now, and then Moose is going through it with Zoe. He was supposed to do it with Theo as well. And then next month is it March or April? April, Remy is doing it, and her brother is doing it with all 4 of their dogs. So all 7 of our dogs are going to be hopefully so well-behaved dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it comes down to what owners do.
I know.
So
it's more
really
like training
dependent.
us than the freaking dog.
He's going to bring them in, get them in shape, and then we're going to have to carry the rest of it, which I'm excited about.
Yes. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I will be going home to Sacramento the 25th through 28th. So hopefully a training session doesn't happen.
When?
In February.
Oh.
I have to so I've been borrowing my sister's Tesla for the last 2 months, and I was supposed to have my uncle come up into town and take it back, but it ends up my sister needs the car before he does that, so I have to do it now.
I love how you tell me this on the podcast. It's hilarious.
Well, I just found out last night, so there wasn't much time to tell you. I'm still telling you and talking to you about it.
I know, it's just funny. Very typical of you.
I know, you told me I was very icy, and this is an example of me just not overly sharing. And that reminds, great segue, guys. I'm a giver in conversations. I actually read this incredible article, and we'll link it down below because I think this is an article that all of us should read, but it actually made me hyper aware of why I feel like I'm not a great conversationalist when it comes to some people, or why it feels like I don't share as much than other people do. And that is because in a conversation, I realized I am a giver. And there are 2 roles. You're either a giver or a taker in a conversation. Neither role is bad. There are pros and cons to both sides of being a giver or a taker, but a giver believes that conversations happen naturally when people are genuinely asking each other questions, versus takers believe a conversation naturally progresses by declaring statements. An example of that, because that's probably not as easy to understand, no questions are asked. It's like, I just watched Avatar. I love that movie so much. And the next person would be like, I love Avatar as well, but Avatar 2 sucked, right? And then that conversation will keep going by building on top of each other versus
asking questions like, what did you like about Avatar? What did you think of this scene?
Exactly.
What did you think of the movie, rather than inserting your opinion and thought about it? It would be like,
what do you think about Avatar? I'd be like, I really liked it. What did you think about it, right? That's how a giver would have a conversation versus a taker would just never ask questions to one another. They just believe that the other person would willingly give up information. And so I realized, and this is a perfect example, you never asked me like, oh, how did last night go? Like, how are your sisters doing? When are you taking home the Tesla, right? I just never openly like shared what I was planning on doing with it. And so then I'm trying to work on becoming more of a taker in a conversation.
Well, do you know how many questions I asked you about how your night was last night? Your dinner,
didn't.
What you talked about. I kept making you answer questions, and you kept trying to do something else. So I was actually I was asking you a lot of questions last night.
In the middle of me trying to figure out, it wasn't the best time.
No, you started doing those things in the middle of our conversation. So
either way,
you started to do that at the wrong time.
Well, I only had an hour to get Zoe some life insurance or pet insurance because I don't have pet insurance for her. And I was trying to get it before midnight because I was going to take her to the vet tomorrow. But then I realized it doesn't even matter because there's a waiting period of 2 weeks. So it didn't even matter. But I was like trying to like figure out pet insurance for her because, I don't have pet insurance for her. But now she does. She officially has pet insurance again.
In 2 weeks, it'll be active.
Yes, in 2 weeks. It'll cover accidents though, but not like any illnesses or vet appointments or anything like that. So either way, I think a really great exercise to do right now is if none of us ask questions and just are takers in this conversation. I think you'll have a lot of fun doing it starting now.
As a person, when you shared this article with me, I realized that I can mold to both sides. So it's not a problem or difficult.
Yeah, I definitely think you're way better at being a conversationalist if someone cannot be the taker in a conversation or cannot be the giver in the conversation. Your turn.
Well, I'm just trying to think about what you're saying, because do you really think that it's
no giving.
I don't think that. I believe that I'm maybe a good conversationalist and like to talk to people, is that I can pick up on how they're feeling and how the flow of the conversation is going whether it be someone's overly sharing and I just keep the conversation going by leaning into it, asking questions, or if I can tell someone's maybe not as forthcoming with information but does want to speak, I'm aware of that, and so I'll ask questions.
Here are some of the pros and cons of being a giver versus a taker. So the pros of being a giver is that, they enjoy listening. They can take a back seat in the conversation and they can allow the taker to shine. But givers, when they talk to takers, can sometimes feel empty inside because the taker never asks them questions. So it almost feels like the taker doesn't want to know what a giver has to offer, or has no interest in their lives. So givers enjoy talking to givers, takers enjoy talking to takers. Now there are people in the middle like you who can mold to both sides, but typically what happens when a giver and a taker talks, normally the giver feels empty leaving the conversation and the taker also feels empty because the taker either feels like a giver is a very boring person and they're like, why do they keep asking me questions instead of just talking and telling me? And then a giver leaves empty because they're like, why is this taker never taking the time to ask me anything about myself? Why am I the only one curious about their lives or what they're up to?
I've found myself in this situation many times for sure. And I think too, it depends on the relationship you have with the person and the circumstance. For example, I just got a tattoo done and I was asking the tattoo artist a bunch of questions because I wanted to get to know her more. I wanted to make the environment more comfortable. Same thing with my barber. He just talks. So I'll just keep asking him questions to keep it going because I can tell that that's the path of least resistance to have a conversation. And so usually I make that decision consciously because I'm just, if it's flowing and someone wants to keep sharing, then.
But don't you feel empty sometimes when, especially with your barber, if he's the one always talking and never asking you about yourself?
Yeah, it's really difficult to pinpoint because there are times where I actually prefer it. So I don't have to speak about myself.
Yes, I find myself
and I can just easily insert a question and just let it flow. And clearly he's trying to get some stuff off. And I'm curious about it for sure, but I'll just let him have it. And then there's times where maybe I'm not even going to have a conversation at all. Mm-hmm. And then someone's constantly talking to you. That's a different thing. So I think that there is a motive behind the conversation. So for example, if someone is a taker, this is what I realized because I read this article a few days ago and I've been testing this out, thinking about it with these conversations I've been having with my tattoo artist, my barber, my brother. Me. And what I realized is it's only draining if a taker is taking when it's unwarranted, meaning they are just having a conversation and they're not reading the room if it's a conversation to be had. So I think that is something that's interesting where a taker will naturally not know how to ask questions. They'll just do it because that's their way of getting to know you. So by talking and sharing their experiences, their thought process is, I want you to know more about me because that's how we can form a stronger connection. Yeah. And I want you to share more about you. That's how we communicate.
I'm sure they get annoyed of each other. Like a taker talking to a giver gets annoyed at the giver because they keep having to answer these questions. It's like, why are you talking about my job? I don't want to talk about my job, but why do you keep asking about it? Like, tell me about yourself, right? Versus a giver's like, why do I have to keep asking you questions? Why are you not talking about me? Why aren't you asking me anything? And that's where I lie. I'm definitely more heavily giver. And that's because I genuinely enjoy asking people questions as well. And I sometimes can find myself asking very intimate questions because sometimes I like to go really, really deep, which I can see why a taker's like, ugh, she keeps asking me these really deep questions. Can she shut the hell up? And I see that side. So for me, I've been trying to make it a huge point ever since reading this article 3 days ago. I was like, I should definitely try to be a taker more often where I just willingly give up information without being prompted to give up information because I can see why takers can find givers pretty boring. And I will say, I take a backseat in a lot of conversations because I just ask the questions, but it's pretty boring.
Normally, I think what the article was saying is if you're a giver, you want to ask people questions, but you also want them to ask you questions. That's the punchline, is that you ask questions to get to know someone. You want them to ask you questions so that you can share stuff about yourself. Whereas a taker would just share about themselves and would want the other person to share about themselves without having to be asked. However, you want to ask about other people, but you don't want people asking about you, nor do you want to talk and make statements about yourself. So that's what I think is interesting is you're not a giver wanting to
Also,
share.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think I do like to share. I just don't like it to be like a 10-minute conversation about myself. Like, I want to be a giver while someone's being a giver. Does that make sense? Like, while someone's asking me questions, I also want to ask them questions. But if they keep asking me just questions and don't allow me to ask them questions, I start feeling uncomfortable because that's not how I naturally speak, right? I naturally speak by asking questions. So when someone doesn't allow me to ask them questions and keeps throwing back the conversation to me, I can see why being a taker can be very draining to another giver. So I understand. I'm very weird to talk to because I genuinely enjoy asking questions, and I do enjoy sharing about myself as well if I'm
Not
prompted.
really.
Yeah, I don't know where you lie in this because I almost feel like there are instances where I see you're definitely a taker, and then there are instances where you feel hurt when someone isn't a giver. Does that make sense?
I think it all comes down to intention. If someone is just blabbing about themselves, but they're not leaving room for me to talk, they're just taking because they're taking in a selfish way.
Yeah.
You know, I think that there is a huge difference between someone's communication style being a taker and wanting to know about you, but expecting you to be the one to give the information. But where I get upset or drained or annoyed is when someone is just talking about themselves and doesn't have any interest in me talking, whether I ask a question or whether I'm taking as well.
Okay.
So that is the distinction. It's not, I don't care if someone's style of speaking is to take and just talk, but they also want me to talk and they're expecting me to talk. Some people will just talk about themselves and not give you any room to speak. Those are people I don't like speaking with.
I mean, at the same time, they can also are just waiting for you to take on top of them taking, because maybe they are interrupters and they don't care if other people interrupt them.
I feel you can gauge when someone just doesn't care what you have going on in your life. Yeah. And that's where I have a problem. It's you start to share and then they gloss over it and they talk more about themselves. They're just looking to talk about themselves. That's not necessarily just their communication style.
Yeah.
They just genuinely are maybe a little too focused on themselves in that moment or whatever.
Well, that's why the article I'm reading is saying that givers and takers can have more natural conversations, or even takers and givers are people who just like to talk about themselves. A more natural way to conversate and have better, more intimate conversations is giving doorknobs. And doorknobs would be like, I hated Avatar, and if you like it, you can fight me on it. Like things like that. And so it's like a passionate start of a conversation.
What is a doorknob?
Okay, sorry, I reread the article a little bit just to familiarize myself with what a doorknob is. And it's like, for a giver, a doorknob is not like asking a question like, how many grandparents of yours are alive? You're like, 1 or 2, and then that doesn't really make a conversation flow, right? But if it was like, why do you think you and your brother turned out so different even though you guys grew up in the same family? Those are like conversation starters. So I guess doorknobs are things where you can have a natural conversation and it makes the other person willing to share and want to have a passionate rapport, like having a quick conversation where you don't feel like you have to think about the next thing you need to say. So that is one. For takers, it would be like saying something like, I think it's really weird when pets lick their parents' faces, or when pets lick their owners' faces, right? And like someone can have a debate about that. So that's like a way a taker can have a doorknob. And so what a doorknob are these affordances where it makes the other person want to conversate in a natural conversation. And apparently the best conversationalists, and there's a study, the best conversationalists can make a conversation happen in milliseconds where there are no pauses to think about the next thing you say. You want the next person to say something so fast after you said something, because whatever you just said sparks their interest. It doesn't even make them have to think about the next thing they have to say. And that's what doorknobs are like either big ideas and statements that can make the other person think something, or just genuine questions that allow like longer responses than yes, no, maybe, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. What's your favorite color? Would be, it's red.
Yeah.
And some people can take what's your favorite color and turn it into it's red because it reminds me of romance and love, like whatever. Like some people can do that, but for the most part, people can't make a conversation happen by getting asked what's your favorite color, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I love that you found so much value in it. I didn't really find, for me, it's like talking about, it's like, for me, like reading the article and even listening to this analysis about conversation feels like reading about how we breathe.
Well,
like
do you think like you're such a great conversationalist? Is this why?
No, it's not in like a conceited way, but I just don't overthink it. No, it's
But
interesting.
also I think it helps you understand why you feel so empty when you're around people that aren't giving to you.
I don't feel like I have a hard time sharing or opening or molding to people's like way of language where it like drains me or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I feel drained unless someone's trying to have small talk with me. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill. I don't care if you just met me. Don't give me small talk. Literally tell me your life story. I'd be like, yeah.
Tell me your life story or give me some knobs.
Yeah, give me some doorknobs.
Yeah, if you're going to ask me questions, like can the questions be captivating? You know?
Yeah.
That would start a good conversation. That's how you break out of small talk. There's the value from the article.
I guess for me, I love finding ways to understand people better. And this made me understand people better, including myself and you.
Yeah. I guess my question to you with this is, how can people apply this for themselves? Is the value just understanding?
Yeah, I think the value is completely just understanding what role you enjoy doing in a conversation and how you can actually move towards understanding the other side of it. And also understanding better questions to ask people and better information or declarations to give people to continue a conversation. Because I do think people struggle with conversating, especially with new people and especially in like workplace settings. Or, I mean, when I was in a sorority, we would do Rush every single year, right? And we would talk to 100 girls in less than 6 days.
Jesus.
If not even more than that. Like it was like 400 girls would go through Rush every freaking year. And so you literally had to meet with every single person that went through Rush. And so you would have all these like small talk conversations, and a lot of it just felt like pulling teeth with girls, just having them to like talk back to you. And that's not their fault. It could be you're not asking good enough questions, or they might just feel uncomfortable when you're just asking them so many questions, and they need you to just like share information for them to want to share. And
Interesting.
It also helps if someone's like vulnerable and you're vulnerable, right? Should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah? Okay, so we are doing our rotten roundup, and today we're not doing a Am I a Rotten Egg? We actually got more information about our Am I the Rotten Egg from last week, the Vegas one.
That was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So,
wow.
Yes.
A follow-up.
So we got a follow-up Am I Rotten Egg? And a rotten confession, which I think is hilarious. It's like not that bad, but it's so funny. But I thought I would just read, the follow-up just in case, because I know to both Matt and I, we had a lot of questions about this one and wanted to know more information. Okay, so let me just read this out loud. I know it's a pretty long read. Hi, so I was the girl who submitted the question last week, i.e. the whole Vegas water cup incident. By the way, I didn't wind up to throw the cup at him, LOL.
Good to know.
Good to know. Thank God, because we were like, I hope you didn't do that because that's bad. And I wanted to say thank you for your honest feedback. It's really helped me with my healing journey as I recover from this toxic relationship. I also forgot to mention, this is big, he drunkenly swung at me in the Vegas hotel room.
Whoa.
Yeah, which he will deny, LOL. He also got a security escort out of the Vegas hotel, and he's barred from that hotel now. So completely rotten egg.
Well, we already knew he was breaking shit in the room anyways, but yeah,
Yes.
that's bad. That's next level bad.
Rotten. I'm so happy we are getting a follow-up, by the way. If we end up using anyone's rotten eggs, please give us follow-ups because I want to know more to the story because we always have more questions. I know what I did in Vegas was wrong, and I apologized to my ex about it afterwards. Funnily enough, one of the reasons why he unblocked me for this talk was because I had these concert tickets that he wanted. I'm also ashamed to admit that we hooked up once after our breakup and had a final conversation after this, where he obviously wanted to continue the arrangement, but I took my dignity back and broke up with him and told him that I didn't even want to have him as a friend anymore. Therapy has really helped me during this tumultuous time period, and so has hearing your unbiased perspective. So thank you.
That's amazing. I love to hear that it's helped because I didn't know, it's
people.
fun to talk about it, but at least there's a positive implication for having these discussions.
Honestly, I almost thought she wouldn't want to watch our podcast anymore after we...
That's how I was feeling. I wonder what it feels like when we talk about it
Yes.
If people are upset, you know, maybe it turns them off to want to, but I'm glad that she leaned into it. You know, I think when you share and you get other people's opinions, there's something, you know, cathartic about that.
It's also really nice to get someone's opinion that is so unbiased because they don't know you. They don't know your friends. They don't know your family. Like I find it.
I don't even know what she looks like. You know what I mean? Which I think is healthy because you're not forming any biases. Maybe you're like, oh, she looks a little crazy, you know, whatever it may be. You know, this is just reading.
Like she would look like someone that wound up.
Yeah. Or she looks innocent. There's no way she could have done it.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously it was his fault. So it's good to just have an unbiased opinion on someone's situation. It's fun.
Yes. This is so fun. I'm really,
we get to
really
be
happy.
therapists.
Also, I like personally for me, like I find it easier to be vulnerable with like someone that's a complete stranger than someone that like might know you or the other person in the story, right? So I can totally see why she leaned in, but I was really afraid she was going to lean out. Okay. And we have a funny rotten confession. You ready for this confession?
I am.
Okay. Confession. I can't even, I'm sorry. This is so
Want me to read it?
Well, no, because I want to see your face because I already read it. Confession. I'm a 22-year-old female and I occasionally pick my own boogers and eat them in secret. It's a habit I've never stopped from childhood and I just kind of like the taste of it and also find it convenient that I don't have to use tissues to get rid of boogers. The end. Nothing else. Nothing else to elaborate. I think it's a great confession. It's so innocent. Funny.
I've definitely done that. I will own up to that.
As an adult?
As an adult, I don't do it anymore. Yeah, I don't know.
There's no way.
Yeah.
When's the last age you've done this?
I don't know.
I did this when I was like maybe 7, or I do remember sitting in the car once when I was really young and doing this, and it was like, oh, this is kind of salty. It's kind of nice, but not as an adult. Other than like when my nose is really running, when I can taste it.
Yeah.
But So when was the last time you did this?
I don't remember the last time. I'm just saying it's. I don't know.
While dating me.
I don't know. I'm not going to give you any more details.
Yes, you do.
I'm not giving you any more details.
Matt likes to pick his boogies.
Nah. Well, I do like to pick my boogers, but I don't like to eat them.
I used to never pick my boogers unless I was in the bathroom sitting on my toilet.
You told me that. I found that so fascinating.
And now, ever since meeting you, I swear I just pick my boogers like all the time. Not in public,
God.
but like I'll be like in the living room watching TV by I won't do it in front of you. It's like very rare I'll do it in front of you. But I'll just like casually do it on like the couch now when I used to never do that.
That's
only because
so
you're
funny.
so comfortable that I guess I've gotten comfortable doing it. But like,
I'm so comfortable
picking your boogies.
Yeah. I didn't really think twice about. I mean, not out in public am I picking my nose in front of people, but I'm not waiting till I go to the bathroom to pick my nose.
I think I've seen you do it once in public.
You know, if you got to pick a booger, you got to pick a booger. Like, no shame. If I saw someone picking their nose, I'd be like, got to get it out somehow.
I even feel weird picking my boogers while I'm driving. No one's in the car, but I'm like terrified if someone next to me sees me picking my boogers. So I don't even do it in the car.
That's so funny.
Unless there's like no cars around me.
That's hilarious.
See, like some people feel really strongly against picking boogers. And then there are people like you who are like, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, well.
There's things that I care about people seeing, but a lot of things I just don't care.
What do you find weird? Like, is picking your ears weird? Like, what would be weird to you that someone did? Farted?
If someone was picking their ass in front of me, I'd be like, you can do that somewhere else. It's a weird visual. Also, because it's like the
What about flossing your teeth in public?
hell yeah. It would inspire me to want to floss. I'd be like, they're cleaning themselves.
Like using toothpicks and stuff. I know some people are weird about that.
Okay, but it's how you do things, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a scratch in your ass, there's a way to scratch your ass. If you're honking and grabbing that underwear and really digging your hand under there, it's a weird visual. It's the same thing with picking your mouth. If you have a toothpick and you're digging food out and twirling it and looking at it and then like eating it or doing something nasty, don't do that shit around me. But if you're just picking and cleaning, like whatever, do you. I'm not
judging.
Yeah, I'm not judging.
I would say you're a very open, judge-free person in a way.
On certain things.
On like stuff like that, yeah.
On stuff like that. Like if someone farted, I'd be like, sweet.
Let me do it next.
Yeah, right. You're like, I farted. You'll tell me. You'll be like, oh my God, I like farted right on Zoe or something.
I did do that. I did
that
it on
was like
purpose.
Recently.
She was laying on my butt, and I kid you not, this girl farts left and right all the freaking time, and I smell it.
Yeah.
Oh man, she has bad farts. Man.
She likes her head towards the crotch, like her mom.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know what the joke was. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Wrapping up.
Either way, she was laying on my butt. Like her face was in my butt, on my butt. And I was like, I need to fart, but I'm just going to do it in front of her and see if she even notices. And she noticed. She went, and then like
So
right
funny.
back down. But like, I was like, that is payback. Really fast. You should show off your new tattoo. Matt got a new tattoo.
Well, I'll show it when it's like healed because there's a lot of ink and stuff on it.
Oh, it still looks
It's
so
still-
cool. I was
yeah,
wondering
spewing
why
out.
it looks so dark, but that makes a lot of
Oh
sense.
yeah, the ink is coming out. It's probably gonna bleed a little bit. That's just coming from the skin
Yeah.
and from its healing. So I gotta leave this on for 3 days, and then I take it off and wash it, and then all that ink will come off, and you'll be able to see it.
Matt's first big boy tattoo.
Yes, first
Sleeves
of many.
coming out. What, tomorrow you're getting consultation or something?
Yep, I'm going to Orange County to meet with an artist. I've been trying to get a session and get a piece done for 7 months now.
Dang.
Yeah, he doesn't have any appointments until July if he takes it on. So I gotta like pitch him my idea and see if he's down.
You don't think he would be?
I mean, it depends, you know?
Yeah.
Which is why I want to go to him, because he's an artist. So his style, it's like a piece, and he's at a stage where he can kind of pick and choose projects based on if it's something he even wants to do.
I think he needs to charge more money because he has a wait list till June. And I'm like, okay, you need to not have wait lists till June. You should just charge for more for your time. Yeah.
Well, that sums it up for today.
Yeah, you want to close out today's episode?
Thank you guys for listening, viewing, subscribing, tuning in to the Rotten Podcast. If you are not subscribed already, hit that button.
Yes.
Follow us along this journey. Comment down below what your thoughts are on boogers.
Yes.
No, comment down below. What should we have, people?
No. Yeah. Do you pick your boogers in public? But also, are you a giver or taker?
Comment down below what your thoughts are on picking your boogers in public, around the house. And also, are you a giver or a taker as a conversationalist?
Yeah.
We want to know. We want to hear from you. Curious on people's feedback about the article. We're going to link it, so read that.
And
Thumbs
give us your
up.
rotten confessions
Absolutely.
down below in the Google form or your Am I the Rotten Egg segments.
Good stuff. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.